Before we start this video, I do want to say a couple things. BladeBound will be at Gen Con this year. I myself will be GMing games with Darrington Press at Envoy on Thursdays and Fridays, and AJ will be attending as a regular attendee. So if you plan on being at Gen Con, please let us know down in the comments below, or hop on our Discord and join the Gen Con thread. We'd love to meet you and thank you for your support. And second, this episode of Duality was recorded prior to the launch of Daggerheart, so the armor system had not changed by that point. So when you see us in combat, referring to armor and reducing it by a number, that's why, because we used the old rules. And with that being said, let's jump into this episode of Duality.
Welcome to BladeBound Saga.
Welcome to Duality, a Daggerheart community podcast where we bring together creators, influencers, and storytellers within the Daggerheart space. This series is about exploring the heart of the game by connecting you to the people that bring it to life. I'm Daniel, your host, and this show is proudly brought to you by BladeBound Saga. In today's video, we'll be diving into another exciting episode where our guest once again creates a Daggerheart character inspired by their real-life self. In each episode of Duality, we invite each guest to create their character, and together we'll explore their choices, characters, and traits, building a character that represents their individual journey. However, what makes Duality stand out is our guests will also face an encounter where they'll use the character they just made to battle an adversary at the end of the episode. Along the way, we'll roll Duality to answer questions about their stories of triumph and struggles through what we know in Daggerheart as hope and fear. So please join me in welcoming today's guest, Seth.
Hope, fear. You roll the dice. Duality.
Seth, once again, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. Before we really dive into this character that you've created, because I've looked at it and I'm intrigued, as it is the second time this class has been picked. I do just want you to introduce yourself and let you know, or let everyone else know how you got involved with the Daggerheart community. And then, I mean, obviously who you are, but yeah.
Yeah. Hello. I am Seth McKay. You can find me on YouTube at Seth of All Trades, where I explore my ADHD and wherever it leads me creatively. Typically, it's crafting terrain for RPGs or doing voices or just essentially exploring the dozens of hobbies I would love to have but have never found the time for.
Yeah. And then, how'd you get into Daggerheart? How'd you first hear about it, I guess?
Well, I've been on the Critical Role train for quite a while, since middle of campaign 1, early to middle campaign 1. So, as soon as they announced it and all of that, I was already ready for it.
Yeah,
I was hooked.
for sure.
I think like a lot of people, I was looking for something other than the mainstay D&D, and everything about Daggerheart latched on to my soul. In the artwork was just it was every kind of dream of fantasy, like my ideal world of fantasy, and how it looks and how the characters look, and all these little frog people or mushroom folks, or just everything about it was exactly the kind of fantasy that I love the most. And so I was just like, okay, I'm in.
Love it. Cool. So before we jump into what exact class and ancestry you picked, let's do our first Duality roll tonight, and see what kind of question you get.
All right, here we go. That is a 10 with hope.
10 with hope.
3.
Yeah, so a 10 with hope. I don't think we've had this question on the show yet. What is your favorite comfort meal?
Ooh, favorite comfort meal. Man, I love food. I love cooking. My favorite comfort meal. Oh, this is tough because there's a number of go-tos. And also my dietary restrictions have changed recently. So uh
As
like
it does as we get older.
yeah. Yeah. So my typical comfort meals are no longer comfortable for me. I really have been enjoying, let's see. Man, I'm really stumped because I just ate, so I'm full. So like I'm not like I can't think of anything but what I had for dinner. Um, one meal that has been a go-to recently has been like these turkey lettuce wraps.
Okay.
Like an Asian like ground turkey we make with like, and then layer on that avocado, turkey, like some peanut sesame seeds, just in like a nice big piece of lettuce. With some rice. That's my comfort meal tonight. I mean, that sounds great. I didn't have
Yeah.
it tonight, but I've
Interesting.
been
Yeah,
dreaming
I
about it.
was totally expecting something like I know that you live I know you lived in the southern hemisphere of the United States,
Yes.
something like
Yeah.
biscuits and gravy or something like
Right.
super that's kind of where I thought it was going, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. No, that's been a a big comfort meal in the last year or so. Um, has been that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Love it.
do have a pizza oven, and I love making pizza. So that's
Yeah. For
probably
once I think
the
once
real
you figure
answer.
out how to make pizza, like you just it's like why go somewhere else?
Truly,
Yeah,
it's there's a learning curve.
for sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
In the pizza oven that gets up to like 900 degrees. But man, once you crack it, it really is like hard to find better pizza.
Yeah. So let's dive into the character sheet.
Yes.
I'm intrigued by what you chose here for your ancestry and your community, and then also this
Yes.
is our second time the sorcerer has been picked. So can you explain to me why you picked this wildborn Simia and what this ties to your backstory?
Yeah, yeah. I had a feeling that I may not have been the first sorcerer, just knowing who has already been on the podcast. Um, and my choices for picking the sorcerer, but we'll get to that in a minute. Looking at the heritage ancestry, I mean, look, this was a super fun exercise that was very difficult for a number of reasons, but like going through it, there were at least half a dozen of these ancestries that I wanted to pick
Mm-hmm.
because they're cool or interesting or like some element of their abilities, I kind of related to. But ultimately, whereas speaking of getting older, I'm not as agile and dexterous as I once was. But man, growing up, like I would climb everything. My brothers and I were obsessed with monkeys and just like loved just doing a bunch of just crazy stuff outside, climbing trees, climbing boulders, you know, going hiking and ending up climbing a giant hill or something. So it was like Simia was where I ultimately landed because that was more of like my early days, like my
For sure.
introduction. Like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is the one I relate to most and the start of my life. So it felt like leaning into that ancestry felt like a good match. And then similarly, there were two communities that I was deciding between. One was the Ridgeborn because I love mountains. I love going camping or staying at a cabin in mountains. Or I used to love rock climbing, which was great. But ultimately, I went with the Wildborn just because it felt more encompassing. Because just kind of that nature aspect, growing up in the woods a lot, or going on camping trips and stuff. It's like, yeah, a lot of times I was in the mountains, but typically it was also in a forest.
For sure. No, that makes sense.
And the big draw for this one was the benefit that you get from it, the ability of Lightfoot. Your movement is naturally silent. You have advantage on rolls to move without being heard. And I have always been very light-footed, and to the point where like my wife's parents for a while just called me Pitter Patter because I would just pitter patter through the kitchen and stuff. That was like a nickname for a number of years. So that one felt more fitting overall, or
Yeah.
seemed to cover multiple bases.
No, that makes sense. I love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm definitely not the same person. I am not a camper, not at
No,
all.
no.
So yeah,
Hey,
it's good to hear.
it's not for everyone.
Now,
And it's
you
more
did pick.
difficult for me now. Like I don't know if I would enjoy it as much just because I have back problems and stuff now, so it's
Yes.
harder to sleep
Yeah.
on the ground.
So now, you picked sorcerer as your class. This is the second
Did.
sorcerer we have, specifically primal origin. Can you let us know about like the mindset about why a primal origin sorcerer fit you?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's probably going to be I'm guessing the sorcerer you had before was AK.
It was.
Shout out to AK
Yep,
in the
shout out to
Pocket
AK if you
Dimension.
missed that episode. 2 episodes ago, was
Yep.
when that episode came out, so it's definitely on the channel.
Yep. When I was picking class, a number of them drew to once again, like I was like, "Ooh, I love this. Like I love Druid. I'm like I love the woods. Waterfalls are like my favorite thing in the world, just about. As far as just like going and just like absolute like peace of mind and stuff and just escaping. I also have a dog that I love very, very much. So I was like, well, animal companion. So I was leaning towards ranger or druid for a while. Um, but ultimately landed on sorcerer because of it felt very, I mean, just reading it, I was like, okay, this, like many of these abilities or descriptors, I just connect with from like I'm like I can find a connection to myself in more of these than like any other class, and specifically the primal origin is just the chaotic element. So last year I was officially diagnosed with ADHD, in large part due to AK and ADHD 20, her and Matt's podcast over on the Pocket Dimension, where they talk about ADHD and TTRPGs and uh, in connecting with them on that and hearing more about it, I was like, oh shit, this is this is me. This is my life. Like uh, I had never been tested for ADHD or you know like like the stereotypical ADHD elements of doing poorly in school, or really that's the big one. Like I did excellent in school, and turns out that that is also because of my ADHD, because I was just masking because I just wanted to, I just needed to do well to to blend in, or as far as I'm learning. So right now, being diagnosed around a year ago, time is a weird soup, so I don't remember specifically, but it's very top of mind. It's very like I'm processing a lot and learning a lot about myself, and a lot of that is tied to ADHD and just neurodivergence in general. And so reading through the sorcerer, I was like, just the chaos of it, and but also being able to uh, kind of get creative with how you harness this power, and like have moments of like uh, ingenuity or creativity or um, just bursts of power. I was like, okay, this feels very accurate to what I feel in my everyday life.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think it's really cool being able to use the internet and like other people's testimonies, because this was not something that you would probably not have seen had you gone
Yeah,
another 10 some years with your
right,
life
right.
not being exposed to anything. So I think it's really
Yeah,
cool even just as like a side tangent with other creators and what they have kind of shared themselves, being able to have that sense of self-discovery.
100%. Like, yeah, I mean, I've told them many times how grateful I am for them and for their openness and sharing, you know, their struggles and just life and their successes and all of that, you know, in their podcast. And so, yeah, 100%.
Cool.
It's very, very cool. And yeah, this oh man, I had something else, but I lost it. I don't remember what it
I
was.
do that at this point in life. Every time I lose something, I say if it wants to come back, it'll find me.
Yeah, that is perfect.
All right, so let's kind of segue a little bit. Let's roll another duality, see what we get as our question before we jump into traits.
All right, here we go. Oh, that's another. It's only an 8, but it is a 5 on the hope die and a 3.
Okay, so with an 8 with hope. Question I have for you,
yes,
is what is your favorite creative project or piece of work that you have ever done?
Ooh, oh man, I love this question, but it feels like an impossible question for me to answer just because I guess now thinking about that answer, I'm like, oh man, I think very highly of myself. But no, there's a number of things that I'm incredibly proud of that I've done recently, and it spans from like a simple drawing that I was like very satisfied with how it turned out to I would say most recently, actually, will be live on my channel on Thursday, is part 1 of a project I've been working on for a few months, and I've collaborating with another YouTuber, Peter, over at Tales from Elsewhere. He's building his own RPG system and is going to be running it at conventions. And so he saw some of my terrain builds and reached out, and he was like, hey, do you want to collaborate on something? I was like, yeah, sounds fun. So I ended up building him a kind of modular battle map for him to run his sessions with. And I think like the reason, I don't know, like I'm really proud of how it turned out because he sent me kind of, you know, the basic sort of layout that he had been using, and in kind of figuring out how to build it, went through a couple, just ideated a couple different options because I knew he was going to be traveling to conventions and all of this stuff. So I didn't want it to just be like a large board, you know, like really cumbersome. And all of that. So I really just dialed into it and tried to make it as versatile and modular and compact, portable as I could. So just the way it turned out, I was just thrilled with it. And it's just, I don't know, like it's really cool how it like packs up, and like, it was just very satisfying to complete that project. So that's probably a recent win, a recent project that I'm like.
Well, the nice thing about Movie Magic, and because of timeline and how this is recorded, when this is going to be launching, that's probably out now.
Yeah,
and I'll definitely link that down below. So if you are interested in seeing what exactly this thing Seth has created in this terrain, go check that out.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right. So, Seth, I did want to ask, as we jump into traits, you have a couple of the traits. Really, 3 is what I want to bring up into consideration. I want to know first, before we jump into the 2 highest scores, why is strength at a -1 for you?
Okay, strength is at a -1 for me because I had to put something at -1.
Sure.
And that felt like my weakest trait. Well, in large part because like 2.5 years ago, I herniated a disc in my back. And so I've been like, just going through like recovery process with that. And it's something that like, I'm still not like fully healthy with. And so it's like, a piece that like, I would love to, you know, have strength higher, but it's just not reality right now, I guess.
Sure.
Like I'm like, it's getting better. It is getting better. And I do like physical therapy and stuff. Next up is strength training though. So hopefully this stat will be going up soon.
Yeah. It's always a progress. It's everything as we level up in life.
Yeah, exactly. I think a few years ago that stat definitely would have been different.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't
Now,
know what the -1 would have been though. It's
you
so
do
hard.
have two. Yeah, it's hard to once you categorize yourself, like where am I at on some of my current weaknesses. But I think that makes sense. Like, as life happens, we
Like, hey.
change and we morph and we become different.
Yep.
And then we change and we morph again.
Yeah. And hey, if we do this again a year from now, maybe that'll have changed.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And my presence will have dropped.
So we have finesse and instinct are the two that you picked as your kind of top scores, both being at a +3.
Yes.
Describe to me like why these traits are so in tune with who you are.
Yeah. So I started out with finesse as my +2. Like starting out, you get +2, 2 +1s, and a -1.
Mm-hmm.
Finesse just felt like something like I used to be kind of quick, but I was never like the fastest runner. So agility was different. Whereas finesse, I'm like, oh, I like to tinker. If you watch like some of my videos, like painting minis or like just building small things, like it felt very probably the piece that I feel most confident in when it comes to these 6 stats. And so that started out as my top. Through the process of leveling up, these two balanced out, where instinct is less like my insightfulness, which I don't remind me. Does Daggerheart does
instinct usually, but I think
insight versus like
I think
presence?
sometimes like you can have it like a little bit of all three of the instinct, presence, knowledge sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah, that's very true. I think instinct, what drew me to that was kind of the perceptiveness and just like attention to detail. I've always like we watched Survivor, my wife and I, like just like I would love to be on Survivor because not because, but some of the challenges and stuff are very like perception based, and I'm like, I would be great at that. Like I can like spot puzzles like pretty quickly, and I don't know, just the attention to detail and leaning into that. I hesitated with that. I will say a hard part of this process of building myself as a fictionalized fantasy character, and I'm curious if you've heard this from other people or not, but is just the like the fantasy element to it. Like this is meant to be like a hero, right?
Sure.
Someone who's powerful and strong and good at what they do. And and as much as I try to limit negative self-talk, I'm like, it was tough choosing some of this stuff and being like, am I like, are any of these a +1 for me?
Sure.
Like, or like, well, I think that's why I had such a hard time choosing a class, because I was like, all of these are a little too just like, they're too cool for me to fall into one of these buckets. And I don't know. I think that was just an interesting part of this exercise of being like, how do I make a choice when my mind is like, well,
Sure.
maybe you're not quite that cool, or
No, and I mean, I think in some ways it's always hard to quantify yourself, right? It's easy to say I am this person in real life, but when we start to like put to an extent arbitrary stats like we are doing right now, sometimes it's not quite as easy. And I totally get that. I think when I end up doing my episode at some point, I'm gonna have just as difficult of a time trying to figure out who exactly I am. So
right,
I do need you to make another duality roll to see what question we get.
All right, here it is. Oh, that one hopped. There's. I had a cocked die, but I got a 12 on the fear dice, and that's a 3. So
15.
15 with fear.
All right. So 15. Has there ever been an encounter with an NPC or a storyline that for you has just fallen flat? Whether you were at the seat, whether you were the player, but just something for you that just like this, to an extent, might have been a horror story, or at best a time where you realize I needed to improve.
Oh, I mean, I feel that way after every single game I run. Pretty much, where I'm like the. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are successes and awesome like moments that I'm like, okay, that session went well. Like that was great.
Yeah.
People were enjoying it. People were engaged. But it's more common for my brain to be like, could have done this better, dude, or you should have said this instead of that. So, I mean, I think because most of my playing, at least up until the past few years, has been running, DMing or GMing. So, yeah, plenty of times where an NPC. Often it's like I have the NPC in my head, and their motivations or whatever. But then I get like I just kind of lose the words in the
Sure.
session, and I'm like, afterwards I'm like, that wasn't really great. Oh, okay. I just thought of a specific example, which I will just preface has a redemption arc,
Ooh, okay.
a redemption piece. So during COVID, during quarantine, I was running a game with some friends online. We were speed running through D&D. And by that, I mean just about every session, we leveled up. So
Okay.
it was kind of like one shot sort of scenarios, where, each session I would just kind of set the scene, and it was every session, level 5, level 6, level 7. So first note, balancing like that escalation, both I think for me and for the players, of like adjusting to that was wild.
Yeah.
But we basically, the kind of framework that I eventually made for it about halfway through was, this lich came and killed my 3 PCs. Okay, wait, hang on.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Let me rewind. So during this game, some players were interested in swapping out their characters. So literally, I gave them an orb, like a sphere, and every couple days or randomly, it would suck PCs up and it would spit other people out. And so it was really just a story device to kind of justify, maybe another player jumping in for a session, or them wanting to play a different character altogether. So basically, this orb was like sucking people up and spitting them out for like half the campaign. So then we get to the point where this lich shows up, kind of lures them in to this like tomb, and then surrounds them with like a couple vampires and kills them. And when they die, this was like my like railroading kind of. I felt kind of bad about it, but it was all for a point. Their souls were sucked into this orb. Turns out the orb was kind of like this, essentially like the Happy Fun Ball from Critical Role, is where like the idea originated, because it was a mechanism for me to be able to create one shots kind of more, and have like an overarching story piece, like a hub, to kind of give it more of an arc. So anyways, there were these big challenges within this orb, that was crafted by an ancient, archmage, to like when you die, to essentially earn your life back, like to if you collect all of these, what are they called? the little like plot device
Souls,
things.
fragments.
It was like fragments, but
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like the like industry
MacGuffins?
MacGuffins. Yeah, yeah.
Sure, okay.
Thank you. It was like, oh, collect these 6 MacGuffins, and you'll have an opportunity to return to your body. Like you know, whatever. Anyways, all of this built. They gathered all the MacGuffins. They made it out of the orb, and when they got spit out of the orb, this lich, who now we know, wanted the orb because of its, means of persisting life. We like went into this as the final fight for this entire campaign. This was the first like full campaign I'd ever like gotten through, like where we were at the end story. Most other games, would just die off or whatever. And so I think it felt like a lot of pressure, and I had a lot of like ideas of how I wanted this final fight to go. And man, we played for like 3 hours, and you could just feel like it just wasn't that satisfying. Like there was something, like it was like, I don't know, it was like I don't know if I like set it up poorly or whatever. I think everyone was just kind of like off or something, right? Well, turns out we only got through like half of the fight. But that was the moment in my mind when I think of a scenario that fell flat. That was the moment. And I was like, oh man, I just kind of ruined, like, how am I going to bounce back from this? And I can't even remember specifics of like why it fell off or like, kind of like unsatisfying as an ending. But we circled back around for session 2 to actually wrap it. And that was one of the most fun sessions I've ever played of D&D. Crazy stuff happened. Someone used a wand of wonder or something, or no, it was wild magic, and a unicorn was summoned that actually ended up saving the party because it could heal people like they were going to die. And I don't know, it was wild and lovely, and it couldn't have ended better ultimately. But that like that session right before was probably the lowest point of like GMing, that I was like, man, I kind of beefed that.
Yeah.
That was a long story.
No,
To
I
answer your
mean,
question.
no, I mean, I'm glad I ended up going in a redemption arc, because sometimes I feel like the sessions, whenever they fall flat, you just kind of feel bad, and then you kind of just have to like almost forget the session happened. But especially when it's the pinnacle and the
Right.
final sessions,
Yes.
you kind of can't.
I know.
So I'm glad that it ended well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm so glad it was the penultimate episode and not the final the final session. I was like, redemption.
So, experiences.
Yes.
Going to this section. This is honestly probably my favorite because I feel that's the most telling of a person. I want to start with because you have 2 experiences that are +4, which I don't think anyone's ever had. I don't think anyone's ever picked yet.
Yeah.
And we have 2 experiences that are +2. So, can you describe to me? Let's go with this first one. I've been working on my chef hands. We've talked a little bit about food, but describe to me this experience and what this means.
Sure. I've been working on my chef hands. Is a phrase that I have been known to say in the past few years. Literally, whenever because of my wife and I really enjoy cooking, and me in particular, like I love just like chopping vegetables, like making pico or something, like just cutting something as small as I can. It just like gets me out of my head. But in that process, I will cut my hand, or excuse me, or I may grab something, a pot that's too hot, or whatever. So I've been working on my chef hands is essentially just me just learning to chef and building up the tolerance and calluses and scars on my hands, and kind of knife work and like prepping food and stuff. That's what that kind of encompasses. I put it on here because like I just love cooking, so I was like, it felt important enough to add. As I how I did my experiences, I like wrote out, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, and then I tried to like condense them down or kind of like combine some
Marching.
things, or like create like little buckets. So yeah, that's what that's all about. I am to this day working on my chef hands, and I actually my temperature tolerance is definitely improved over what it once was.
Yeah. Which I think this kind of goes, I think, especially with working with something new. This next one I think makes sense too, which is embrace confidence. But any
Yeah.
insight that you want to give to everyone else about what embrace confidence means to you?
Yeah, that was my most recent one. That was my level 5 experience. And this actually stems directly. I ripped this straight off of my favorite PC, favorite character I've ever built, which is Dimple Muckmeyer, who I play over on the Pocket Dimension in their actual play. She came about, she's a goblin, a very nervous goblin wizard, who came about not long after I was diagnosed with ADHD and kind of going through, trying to essentially be more mindful in my life of, um, doing affirmations and stuff, and trying to get a little more woo woo, trying to embrace that a little. And so, embracing confidence was an experience that I gave her just because I related to it. And so I just dragged that right over to myself because I fully put it on her because it was directly related, like, to me in that
Yeah.
moment. I literally had sticky notes in my office and around kind of my studio space that just say embrace confidence.
Yeah.
So that's where it stems from. Just to, take a breath and, tell yourself, hey, you can do this.
So the next one, which is your first +4 one, tinker to the core. We've already kind of heard about this, but
Yeah.
anything further you wish to add?
I just like to tinker. I like to take things
Yeah.
apart. I like to build. Yeah.
Which if you have not seen Seth on Seth of All Trades, watch his stuff. I feel like I always get inspired to continue building, even though I haven't built terrain in forever.
Oh, it's
Whenever
so
I see your
fun.
stuff.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's building terrain specifically has been like just like my focus lately, just because it's so fun, and there are very cool things you can do.
Yeah.
I really just steal ideas from other people and create them myself.
That's
Which,
pretty much all tabletop is at
right?
this
Yeah.
point. So. And then this one, because I absolutely love the videos that you have done for this. But man of many voices. And then you also put parentheses. There's a quote for that.
Yeah. That was kind of a note to myself in there, because that was kind of the 5th experience that I was
Sure.
like, I need to trim this, but I was like, oh, but when we play, or I just kind of want to remember this piece. Yeah, I do voices. I've always done voices. Some of them, I always have fun with them. Some of them drive the people around me crazy, and that is part of the fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just getting ready in the morning or whatever I'm doing, like, or like, so this is where in parentheses there's a quote for that. I also quote a lot of stuff like The Grinch or Harry Potter or random other things, so it's like, typically there's a voice involved when I'm quoting things. So
Which I'm glad.
that one just kind of fell into more voices.
Yeah, because I am not I do not remember quotes to save my life. So I'm glad you do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, let's roll another duality before we jump into
right.
our second to last section of the
Ooh,
episode.
that is the exact same roll.
Okay. Which is?
It's a 15 with fear, with a 12
15 with
on
fear.
the fear dice.
Well,
Ooh,
here is the
backup
question. As I will take that fear a second time here.
Yes.
Have you ever been disappointed by an item or ability that you thought was going to be a lot better mechanically in a tabletop RPG?
Oh. Okay, I'm going to try and keep stories shorter this time. I think I've been more disappointed in my player's use of an item that I've given them.
Ooh, okay. I need to hear
And
this story then.
what I mean by that is I'm like, okay, like it's an item that like say like a robe of useful items. I
Mhm.
love that item. I've never gotten to play a character who has that item, but I'm like, oh man, it would be so fun to have all these like little things I could do. Like I love trying to like just get creative with like trying stuff with random things. And so having a robe of useful items I thought would always be kind of like just a fun sort of resource as a player. And I've given it to a few players and they're just like, oh, this sucks. Like they just aren't interested in it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, this could be so fun.
Like that goes in my backpack, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And
Just
that's
stays in
it.
the backpack.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the thing that comes to mind most. I've been disappointed that I haven't gotten a robe of useful items, I guess.
That's fair. And as a forever GM myself, I have also never been given items that I want to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So last section before we jump into our most famed encounters, I
Ooh.
do want you to just go over and describe to me, in kind of a quick succession, the domain card that you picked and why you picked it.
I've picked Unleash Chaos, uh, just because of basically what we talked about with the sorcerer and unleashing chaos and kind of doing cool things, harnessing chaos. Uncanny Disguise. This was another one. I'm like, I feel like AK definitely had this spell because of the masking element of ADHD.
Oh, she did not.
She did not?
She did not,
Okay. I was like, there could be some crossover here. So cool. I picked something different. Um, uh, that element, Uncanny Disguise, yeah. I was like, sure, I can relate to that. Not directly. I don't really, like I'm pretty as much as I love Halloween, I rarely dress up.
Sure.
I haven't ever cosplayed, which sounds cool.
Oh.
It's just like I'm like I don't have the passion for it.
It's a new skill. It's a new skill set too.
Yeah, truly. But yes, so just the act of masking was the inspiration for that one. I picked Midnight Spirit. This was purely to embody my sweet dog Finley. As this was my way to, I didn't have her as a ranger companion. So this that's for her. Flight. I have always, the age old question of like, what superpower would you have? I have always wanted to be able to fly. And I was like, this is based on agility, which I'm not great at. And that's okay. As long as I can fly once, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Premonition just honestly sounded like a really cool spell.
Yeah.
Being able to like I haven't seen a spell in D&D that plays it like this.
Sure.
There may be one and I just don't know about it, but I thought it was really cool to have something affected by your fear and being like, "Oh, that's what I saw in my vision earlier today." And I'm going to avoid that. Like that I'm like, I wish I had this power.
And then anything in your vault?
Yes. Okay, this was my really cheesy one. My Rune Ward. I really like just the like protective idea of this. The deeply personal trinket is the cheesy part. The trinket that I wear every day, just representing my love for my partner in life. Shout out to Lizzie. She's the best. That one, I was like, this is going to be cheesy as hell, and I'm going for it. And then Preservation Blast, I loved as the embodiment of procrastination, because I thrive under pressure. Like every school project I would do the night before and be up until 3, 4, 6 a.m. and would be proud of, it would result in something great. But just the pressure of procrastination, I like the idea of preservation blast, like enemies kind of all on all sides, things in my life, sort of stresses on all sides, and just being able to push them back, push them off, and deal with them when they get closer to me again. That just seemed kind of like a fun interpretation.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So-
that's my vault. I mean, that's all my domains.
Right. So before we jump in to this encounter, I
Yes.
do need you to roll one final time.
One
for
final time. Here we
Duality.
go. Let's get a
For the
critical.
question that takes us into the end.
Oh, it's a 6 with fear.
6 with fear.
Yeah.
So with a 6 with fear, is there a place in your life that just didn't live up to your expectations?
Place in my life. It didn't live up to expectations. The place I think of first was the first college I went to. I didn't have any great sort of aspirations of a college. Kind of just picked one. But I went to Georgia College and State University my first year of college. It was in Milledgeville, Georgia, which was a 2-hour drive into the middle of nowhere from where I lived. And my now wife, not wife at the time, my freshman year of college, we went to the same college that year. And we drove back home just about every weekend because neither of us enjoyed that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would probably be the disappointing thing of I didn't really experience like college or like kind of college environment until like my junior year of college. So that one was a bummer. I moved to Georgia State ultimately, and that was way better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the nice thing about like looking back at your past is also looking about what things changed afterward.
Yeah.
So, but that does bring us to our encounter. So,
Ooh, yes.
Seth, are you ready?
Yeah. I think I can say I am.
Let us begin.
Hope, fear, hope, fear, hope, fear, terror.
So,
Yes.
you find yourself on the way back home.
Okay.
Traveling from a far land for whatever amount of time, it's finally time to get back. Say hi to friends, to family. Eat that meal that you've been craving for so long.
Yeah.
Go to the park, go down to town center, and just remember when things were simple. As you arrive at your hometown, it's quite foggy. You look and there's just enough break in the fog where you're able to see your hands as you reach out. But having to navigate the space is difficult. Can you make a instinct roll for me? Or knowledge, up to you, as you attempt to remember how to walk back
Ooh.
into the town.
I'm gonna make an instinct roll. Let's do instinct on this. That is a 17 with hope.
17 with hope. Go ahead and add that hope. As you begin kind of navigating through this space, it's just like you remember. Going down this road, turn, wait for the stoplight, go move this to this stop sign, stop, keep moving. And as you make it to kind of this key point, can you describe to me a landmark that reminds you of where you are and why it's so memorable?
A landmark of my hometown. I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be Nikki's Undefeated. It's a Philly cheesesteak shop in downtown Tucker. That is great. It's my favorite place downtown.
Pulling up, you get out of the car, and as you do so, you walk in, expecting the normal bells and chimes that you do. And as you walk, the door is wide open, but in the space, there is no one standing there. You continue on, moving from space to space, going 5 minutes, getting closer to your home at this point. And then you start to hear these like bells almost. The fog starts to thicken even more, and then you hit this kind of bump in the road.
Okay.
Must be construction of some kind. You don't remember anything there. Then there's another one about 5 seconds later. Another one 4 seconds later. Another one 3 seconds later, 2 seconds. And now it's a constant state of bumpiness as you feel and you can't really see where you're at. And at this point, you kind of turn your lights on even further and they don't flicker. And at this point now, the car starts to halt.
Can I look in the back seat and make sure my dog Finley is still chilling back there and cast Midnight Spirit?
Yeah.
By using
You
the
do
hope?
so. Your dog is certainly there. Kind of waiting, though, looks up at you, kind of at this point, jumping up onto kind of the center area, jumping and then kind of getting into your lap at this point, noticing the strangeness just as you do. As you turn the ignition, it still does not turn on for some reason.
Okay. Guess I'll step out. I'll see what's up. I'm gonna grab my water bottle as well that I keep in the door of the car.
You feel a squish as you look down and it's muddy.
The road is muddy?
The road is not there anymore.
Oh.
Somehow you must have driven off-road somehow.
Is this a dream? Am I dreaming right now?
You hear that chime and that bell once more as the fog does begin to thin. The town you're unaware of, and you do see, kind of overseeing this new space, there is a person standing in the center of this town. It's kind of hard to make shape, unless you wish to make some sort of roll.
Yeah. I'll see what I can see.
Yeah.
All right. That's gonna be an 11 with hope.
11, going at it. It's still difficult to see, but you do know that the person is just basically standing still. Turns, kind of looking towards what looks to be some sort of tavern. You begin making your way towards this town.
Yeah.
The only place that you can see, your car is stalled at this point.
I'll walk up to
As
him.
you walk up to him, what do you say?
Hello. Actually, I do say, hello. You all right? What's up?
The individual is cloaked, dark-laden garments, ones that
Okay.
you would not normally see unless you be at a Ren fair, some sort of TV show of some kind, not in person that normally wears this kind of clothing. But then they turn to you holding what looks to be this lantern in hand, and they say, "Your time has come." I am going to spend a fear
Don't like
here.
that.
Does a 13 hit?
Yes, it does.
Well, a 13. That is going to be 7 points of magic damage.
Okay.
As you feel this kind of like almost sense of dread and terror, like you're not like you don't think you're supposed to be here. You must have wandered off, but this is someone that you don't recognize, but for some reason has targeted you. As you kind of begin to kind of get to your senses, there's almost this like presence within you, almost from like a voice that just says, "Get up. Get up, fight. You're not done yet." What do you do?
I am going to use Uncanny Disguise. I'm going to kind of expand in size a bit, and I'm draped in a similar dark cloak. And I'm going to make a spellcast roll to cast Minor Illusion to also conjure this lamp, and I just want to look like this figure.
Yeah.
And I say, actually, your time has come.
Okay, go ahead and make a spellcast roll for me.
All right, that's an 18 with hope.
18 with hope is certainly going to succeed. As you do so, you basically mimic this individual's guise. You're not sure how you got these clothes, as your dog just kind of turns looking at you kind of, huh? As
It's okay.
you say this confusion brings a moment where he almost is stunned looking at himself. You do have the floor still at the moment. What do you wish to do?
All right, in that case, I think I reach down and just grab a large stick, like a hiking stick almost, that's just kind of thrown off to the side. And I'm just going to use my dual staff as I just like swing with an attack.
Yeah, go ahead and make the attack roll.
That is going to be, oh, that's a 9, okay. 16 with fear.
16 with fear is going to hit. I will take that fear. Roll for damage.
Sweet. Here we go. That's 13 points of magical damage.
13 points of magical damage is going to just hit its major threshold.
Ooh,
as you do
okay.
2 points of damage to this thing. I'm kind of firing it. You not just almost feeling innately. You fire this this blast towards this individual. They kind of scatter a bit. Their robes kind of almost look wispy, like they should not be here. This is definitely not home where you were heading. You hear the voice in your head. It says, "He's not done. Keep going." But before you're able to do so, he stands and says, "I told you this was inevitable." And at this point, just kind of like takes the lantern and has it glow, and then it kind of opens up with this light. I need you to make a presence check for me.
Okay.
A reaction roll, in fact.
Presence is +1. That is 13 on the die, so 14 presence roll.
14
Yep.
does not succeed. You feel almost as if like portions of you, the guys that you currently have, just gets kind of like whipped off of you, as you now kind of feel almost younger. In doing so, I need you to mark a stress.
Okay.
And for failing, I will also have you mark a hope.
Okay. All right.
Swings back to you.
I am going to start to arc around, beeline towards this establishment, this tavern you mentioned, and say, "Finley, come on," and do like a little.
Yeah.
And as we run off, I'm almost just going to link up with that and flare those last few wisps of light and use Unleash Chaos.
Okay.
I'm going to use all 3 charges on this, so I think it's just a 10 to hit.
Yeah. Firing this was it with hope or fear?
Oh, it was with fear. It was with fear.
Yeah, I will take this other fear. You kind of jumping into the tavern, kind of navigating around this individual, casting this Unleash Chaos. It's almost as if this is way more than you could even control or handle. That kind of sap that it takes from you, you feeling much younger than you currently are now, almost like life has been taken away from you. Firing and scattering across the tavern, the individual just kind of swings open his presence, very looming. As the doors swing wide, this burst of wind kind of echoes. He is going to say, "I said inevitable," and is just going to like slowly walk towards you, and then once again, kind of with his lantern, smack it on the ground, and instead of the lantern opening, there's a rush of like this energy that makes its way towards you. I don't think this will hit. Does a 5 hit? I don't think so.
No.
Hey. Kind of seen this before, dodging around and jumping behind a counter inside this tavern. You kind of noticing that this has the same materials that you would find in any kind of standard tavern, but with that dodging out of the way, what do you do?
So, what I'm going to do here is ask if I can initiate a tag team with my dog.
Okay, I don't think you're the first person who's ever tried to initiate a tag team. I will certainly allow it if you wish. Given the Midnight Spirit's kind of innate abilities, go ahead.
Okay, so
Go ahead and mark the 3 and describe me what you're doing here.
I'm going to mark the 3. So I have to make a spellcast roll for the Midnight Spirit for Finley, and then I think I'm also going to mark a stress to replenish my chaos, and just unleash that again. I'm going to say to Finley, I'm going to say, "High five." And she gives me a high five. And then I'm going to say, "Go get him." She is going to rush towards this entity, not quite to attack, but just unleash a barrage of just vicious, kind of ferocious barking and kind of wailing. And if you'll allow me, that'll kind of be her attack. As I kind of see now, with this sort of innate sorcerer abilities, I kind of see the sound waves and I empower them with my chaos, and I will make both of those rolls.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First for Unleash Chaos is going to be, that is 19 with fear. And for Finley's, that is going to be a lot of fear here, but this is worse. So I'm going to take the 19 with fear.
Okay. Go ahead and roll the damage.
Unleash Chaos is going to be, that's 6, 6, and a 2. Which is 14. And then for Midnight Spirit, it's 3d6s. It's a 5, a 2, and a 6. For another 13.
27 points of damage is certainly going to be a severe.
27 points. Now, can I mark a stress to use my primal origin here?
Okay.
Marking a stress. So instead of 4, so without the 2s, it'd be 23. We're going to add another 11 to that for 34.
Blowing this thing out of the water, you hear the individual as she walks up. It's like, what are you doing here again? And as the bark lets out, it's almost like this energy like begins to waft. The lantern kind of goes almost haywire as the cloak begins to like pull backwards, and what you see in front of you is a much, much older version of Seth. As it looks down, says, what are you doing here? Not talking to you.
Can I look around? See who he's talking to?
He is looking at Finley.
He's looking at Finley. I'm going to say, what are you doing here?
You say that. He turns over to you. Says, you were a mistake. This kind of heavy breath having taken this last hit. Finley kind of just like backing off a little bit. The visage almost feels unreal. But it is you, but a much, much older version.
I think I'm going to cast Fly on myself.
Okay, you do so. Make a spellcast roll.
Because I feel it. Here we go. So it's 17 plus it's 20 with fear. And I don't have enough to double my hope die. So yeah, 20 with fear.
Okay. As you do so, you begin to ascend into the air.
Yeah. I'm going to fly up in the air and be like, hell yeah. I don't even know where I am, man.
He says, I need you to go away. And he raises the lantern once more, and I do need you to make another presence check for me.
Okay.
Presence reaction roll.
Presence
He's
reaction.
attempting to open the lantern once more, as he has before.
Okay. That's not good. It's 10.
10 is not a success. That is going to be marking another stress, and you
Okay.
are going to lose another hope. I am going to spend a fear to highlight them one more time and place the spotlight, as they are going to, or you are going to yourself, kind of pull forward and kind of blast. That's another 5. I don't think hits.
Doesn't hit.
In the air,
I
able to
fly out of the way.
Yeah.
Always wanted to do that. Okay, here's what I'll tell you, friend. I don't know what's happening. And why you're trying to hit me with light and shit. So why don't you just explain yourself? Old me?
Make a presence check. I will give you advantage given the fact that you are in the air.
I am going to embrace confidence in this moment and burn that hope. And with the advantage, it is... Oh, wait. I rolled 2 4s, so critical success.
This individual of yours, of yourself, looks up, and what you see before you is this version of yourself that kind of just lived life not being able to move past himself. Looking at you, trying to kind of like this lantern as this kind of piece to take what you have and give him more time. As he's been using that hope, one thing you've noticed is it's almost as if he's getting a little bit younger, or a little bit younger as he takes time from you and adds it to himself. He says, I need you. I don't have much time left.
Well, that's your fault. And I'll sling another dual staff at him.
Yeah, that'll make the attack roll.
All right, that's 2 4s again.
So that immediately jumps to 18 plus your
18
rolls.
plus what I roll.
Okay.
Okay, that's 4, 6, 7. Not great on the dice, but plus my 3 is another 10, so 28.
Easily, I ask you this question as I ask everyone else. How do you want to do this?
I think in this action as well, the facade, although I think it would have dropped sooner, but this is better. The cloak and the lantern that I have been kind of mimicking this character with, I just kind of blow away in the wind as I flutter up above myself. And with this action, kind of slowly start descending as my only fly point is removed. And I will just slowly fall before myself as the light that still has impacted me, older me, and is kind of slowly suffusing through the body begins to glow brighter and brighter before just floating away.
As this individual kind of dissipates, whatever that was, whatever that moment is in time, you begin to start seeing the walls kind of slowly start to fade. An individual approaches you, one that brings you joy, one that is always there to remind you who you are. Who is this individual?
I mean, it's got to be my wife, because she does that every day.
As she begins to kind of like shake you, Seth. Seth,
Yeah, what?
you wake up. You find yourself in bed,
It was a dream.
standing on your bed with what looks to be Finley in your hand, and then your phone as like holding it as a weapon.
What happened?
I don't know, you tell me, and you just see your whole room just all sorts of chaos.
That was one of the greatest dreams I've ever had.
And with that being said, that does bring us to the end of Duality. Seth, it was so great to have you on the show.
Yes.
It was really great, like just being able to explore you, and then especially in that encounter, kind of exploring, kind of just like you talked a lot about your past, but then also bringing it into the current. And I just thought that like the encounter just like worked really well for who
I love
you,
that.
are. So I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of plug in who you are once again, where they can find you, any projects that you're currently working on that we should be out on the look for before we close the episode today.
Yeah. You can find me over at Seth of All Trades on YouTube. I also have an Instagram account, but I'm bad about posting to that, and that's okay. But yeah, I check out the videos that I've just posted, probably on this project, kind of crafting this battle map, and I think I'll also be doing some more live streams, kind of just a grab bag of whatever kind of chaos comes up there. So yeah, you'll see me around over there.
So with that being said, if you want to see the next episode of Duality, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And as always, we will see you on the next episode of Duality.
Until then.
Bye, everyone.
Toodles!
From ink and steel, stories are forged. We are BladeBound Saga.